She poisoned his drink. Homeless girl in a wheelchair warns him, and the single billionaire's life changes forever. Ryan Bennett adjusted his tie knot for the third time. He wasn't nervous, at least that's what he told himself. At 42, he'd closed multi-million-dollar deals without a blink. But tonight was different. The ring in his jacket pocket felt heavier than any contract he'd ever signed. The U Skyline Grill restaurant was perfect for the occasion. Soft lights, discreet music, a panoramic city view. Ryan had reserved the corner table, away from the hustle. Everything was calculated for the right moment. Vanessa arrived promptly at 8, as always. Impeccable blonde hair, a navy blue dress that highlighted her light eyes. 3 years of dating, and she still made him feel like a lovesick teenager. "Sorry I'm late," she said, kissing his cheek. "Traffic was impossible." "You're not late." "I just arrived too early." She laughed. That clear, bright laugh that had won him over the first time they met at a business conference in New York. Ryan pulled out her chair for her to sit. "You seem different tonight," Vanessa observed, studying his face. "More anxious." "Anxious, no? Expectant?" The waiter approached with the menu. Ryan took it and began to study the options, even though he already knew what he was going to order. He'd called earlier to confirm they had her favorite special wine, the 2018 Cabernet. For 20 minutes, they talked about their workdays, weekend plans, and a trip they'd take next month. Ryan kept the conversation flowing, but his mind was focused on what would come after dinner. "Have you decided yet?" Vanessa asked after a while. "Almost," Ryan murmured, looking at the menu again. In truth, he was trying to find the courage for what was next. "How about we order that wine you love, the 2018 Cabernet?" "Perfect. You have an incredible memory for wines." Ryan smiled and called the waiter over. He ordered the red wine for himself, sparkling water for her. Vanessa chose the grilled salmon with asparagus, while he opted for the medium-rare steak with rustic potatoes. While they waited for their drinks, Ryan observed Vanessa. She looked stunning. The blue dress perfectly matched her eyes, and the pearl necklace he'd given her for her birthday shimmered softly under the restaurant lights. Everything seemed perfect. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, noticing his gaze. "You, us, how we got here." Vanessa smiled, touching his hand across the table. "Our 3 incredible years, and this is just the beginning." The waiter brought the wine and ceremoniously poured 2 glasses. Ryan thanked him and waited for him to move away before continuing the conversation. "Actually," Ryan said, picking up the menu again, "I want tonight to be special. I was thinking about dessert too. How about the tiramisu?" "I love tiramisu," Vanessa replied, but Ryan noticed she seemed slightly tense. He focused on the menu, studying the dessert options with exaggerated care. In truth, he was stalling for time. How should he begin? Should he talk about love first or go straight to the point? His hands were slightly sweaty. Vanessa took advantage of his absorption in the menu. She discreetly glanced around the restaurant, checking if anyone was paying attention to them. Most of the diners were engrossed in their own conversations. Quickly, she opened her purse and pulled out a small paper packet. With a precise movement, she emptied its contents into Ryan's glass. The powder dissolved instantly in the dark wine, leaving no trace. Ryan continued reading about cakes and ice creams, oblivious to everything that had just happened. Outside, a small figure was watching through the window. Emily had spent the entire day searching for food. It was a routine she knew well, waking up early, roaming the city streets, checking dumpsters behind bakeries and restaurants, always hoping to find something still edible. Her old wheelchair creaked as she positioned herself better to see inside the Skyline Grill. It was an elegant restaurant, the kind of place where wealthy people dined. Emily knew these places sometimes threw away good food, leftover bread, fruit that was starting to yellow, desserts no one finished. She always looked through the windows before going around to the back to search the trash bins. Sometimes she saw interesting things. People kissing, families celebrating birthdays, men in suits doing important business. That's when she saw something that made her stop. A man in a dark suit was sitting near the window, focused on what looked like a menu. Across the table, A blonde woman in a blue dress nervously looked around. When she was sure no one was watching, she took something small from her purse and poured it into the man's drink. It was a white powder that disappeared completely in the dark liquid. Emily frowned. That definitely wasn't right. On the streets, she'd learned to recognize when things were wrong. People putting things in other people's drinks was never a good sign. The man kept reading, having no idea what had happened. Emily looked around, searching for someone who could help, but the street was empty. It was up to her or no one. Inside the restaurant, Ryan finally lowered the menu. "All right," he said, smiling at Vanessa. "I think we'll share the tiramisu after all, and maybe some coffee." The waiter brought their main courses. Vanessa's salmon was perfect, golden and seasoned just right. Ryan's steak was exactly how he liked it. They ate, chatting about work, mutual friends, and his plans to renovate his house. Ryan tried to keep the conversation natural, but his nervousness was growing. Several times he touched the pocket where the ring was, checking if it was still there. Vanessa seemed to notice his anxiety and tried to reassure him with smiles and affectionate touches on his hand. "You're very quiet today," she commented after a while. "I'm thinking." "About what?" "The future, about us." Vanessa smiled, but there was something different in her eyes, a restlessness that Ryan couldn't quite identify. When they finished eating, Ryan wiped his hands on the napkin and took a deep breath. It was time. "Vanessa," he began, "these past 3 years have been the best of my life." "Mine too," she replied, but her voice sounded slightly tense. "I never imagined I could be this happy." "You changed everything for me." Vanessa smiled, but Ryan noticed she was nervously fidgeting with her napkin. "Actually," he continued, "I wanted to talk about our future, about what comes next." It was then that Vanessa abruptly stood up. "Excuse me, honey," she said, avoiding eye contact. "I need to use the restroom quickly." "I'll be right back." "Of course," Ryan replied, a little confused by the interruption. "I'm not going anywhere." He watched her walk away, moving faster than usual. Maybe she was nervous too. Maybe she knew what was coming. Ryan looked at his wine glass. It was still almost full. He decided he needed some liquid courage for what was next. He lifted the glass and took a generous sip. The taste was a little different than he expected, more metallic, more bitter, but expensive wines sometimes had those complex nuances. He took another sip, then another. Better finish it before Vanessa came back. That's when he heard the noise, wheels squeaking outside. The sound grew louder, as if someone was rapidly approaching the restaurant entrance. "What's that noise?" Ryan murmured, looking towards the door. Suddenly, the restaurant door burst open. A small girl quickly wheeled herself in, moving in an old, noisy wheelchair. She couldn't have been more than 5 though, her clothes dirty and crumpled, and an urgent expression on her face. "Don't drink it. She put something in your drink." The child's voice echoed through the elegant restaurant like an alarm. All the diners turned to look, some with expressions of shock, others of irritation. Waiters stopped what they were doing. The maitre d' started moving quickly towards the girl. Ryan looked around, confused. Who was she? The girl was pointing directly at him. But what was she talking about? "It's all right, kiddo," he said, shrugging and forcing a reassuring smile. "Everything's fine here." "No, sir," the child insisted, her voice full of desperation. "I saw from outside. You were looking at the menu and she put something in your drink." Silence fell over the room. The other diners whispered among themselves, some taking photos with their phones. The maitre d' approached the girl, clearly embarrassed and wanting to resolve the situation quickly. Ryan automatically looked at the table. Vanessa's chair was empty. "Where's—" he began to ask, but the question died in his throat. Suddenly, as if someone had flipped a switch, everything changed. An intense, unpleasant tingling sensation took over his tongue, rapidly spreading throughout his mouth. Then came a wave of nausea that hit him like a punch to the stomach, completely taking his breath away. His heart raced. It wasn't nervousness, it was something much worse, something chemical and terrifying. "Apologies for the inconvenience," the maitre d' was saying, trying to calm the situation and maintain the restaurant's elegance. "We'll handle this right away." Ryan tried to respond, but the words came out jumbled and incomprehensible. The room began to spin violently, as if he were on an uncontrolled carousel. He clutched the table tightly, but his hands trembled uncontrollably. Cold sweat started to trickle down his face. His breathing became shallow and difficult. "Sir, are you all right?" the waiter asked, noticing his extreme pallor and the obvious signs that something was terribly wrong. A sharp pain shot through his chest like a blade. Breathing became even harder, as if someone were squeezing his throat from inside. Ryan looked at his wine glass. It was almost empty. He had drunk almost all of it. The realization hit him like lightning. The girl was right. Someone had put something in his drink, and he had drunk it. Call an ambulance," the girl shouted, her voice cutting through the confused murmuring of the other diners. "He's sick." The maitre d' no longer hesitated. The situation had gone from a simple inconvenience to a real medical emergency. He urgently signaled to an employee, "Call emergency services." "Now!" Ryan tried to stand up, tried to maintain control, but his legs simply wouldn't obey. He fell back into his chair, his entire body trembling. The world around him was becoming blurred and distorted. "Vanessa," he managed to mumble, looking desperately in the direction of the restroom. But deep down, he already knew. She wasn't in the restroom. The girl had said she saw a woman put something in his drink, and Vanessa had left the table with an excuse. The sound of sirens rapidly approached. Paramedics rushed into the restaurant, carrying medical equipment. The place that minutes before was a romantic and elegant setting now looked like a crime scene. "Sir, can you hear me?" one of the paramedics asked, kneeling beside Ryan. "What's your name?" "Ryan Bennett," he managed to whisper through numb lips. "What happened here?" "He drank something he shouldn't have," the girl said before Ryan could try to answer. "The woman he was with put something in his drink when he wasn't looking. I saw everything from the window." The paramedics exchanged worried glances. This wasn't a common illness. "Possible poisoning," one of them said to his colleague, already preparing equipment. "Unstable vital signs. We're taking him now." They efficiently laid him on a stretcher, placed an oxygen mask over his face. Ryan tried to speak, to ask about Vanessa, about the girl, about what was happening to him, but the words simply wouldn't come out anymore. "The drink," he managed to mumble through the mask, using his last bit of strength. "Analyze. The drink." "We're already taking care of that," said a police officer who had arrived with the paramedics. "And we'll want to speak with the person who warned him." Ryan looked at the girl one last time before being wheeled out. She watched him with genuine concern, her small hands clutching the worn arms of her wheelchair, a child he had never seen before, who had risked everything to save him. "Thank you," he managed to whisper, hoping she understood. She nodded, serious and solemn as an adult. "It's going to be okay," she said. "The doctors will take care of you." As he was carried out of the restaurant, Ryan saw through his blurred vision 2 police officers talking intensely with the maitre d'. One of them held his wine glass in a clear plastic bag. The other was taking notes on a pad, asking rapid questions of the staff. On the way to the hospital, as the ambulance cut through traffic with sirens blaring, Ryan tried to organize his thoughts through the chemical fog that clouded his mind. The puzzle pieces were falling into place in a terrible way. Vanessa had arrived on time. As always, she seemed normal, even happy. But there was something different about her today, a tension he had noticed but ignored. And when he started talking about the future, about them, she had left the table. To go to the restroom, she said, but she hadn't returned. The girl had said she saw a woman put something in his drink, a woman, and Vanessa was the only woman at his table. "Stay calm, sir," one of the paramedics said, checking his vital signs on the monitor. "We're almost there. You're going to be okay." But Ryan wasn't sure if he would ever be okay again. Not after this. The hospital appeared ahead, a fortress of white lights cutting through the darkness of the night. Ryan was taken directly to the emergency room, where a full medical team was already waiting for him. The engagement ring was still in his jacket pocket, which now hung on a hanger beside his hospital bed. 3 years of relationship, of plans, of shared dreams. And it had all crumbled in a matter of minutes, saved only by the desperate shout of an unknown little girl. Ryan closed his eyes as the doctors worked around him, trying to save his life. When morning came, if it came for him, everything would be different. Ryan signed the discharge papers with a hand that was still slightly trembling. 3 days in the hospital had been enough to clear the toxin from his system, but not to erase the memories of what had happened. The doctor repeated the instructions a second time: rest, medication as prescribed, and immediate return if he felt any strange symptoms. "You were very lucky, Mr. Bennett," Dr. Martinez said, flipping through the results of the latest tests. "This substance we found is rare, expensive, and extremely dangerous. It's not something you buy just anywhere." "Where could it have come from?" Ryan asked, though he already knew there wouldn't be a simple answer. The doctor shook his head gravely. "It's not something found in pharmacies. Someone had to specifically seek it out, and they knew exactly what they were doing." The words echoed in Ryan's mind all the way home. Vanessa hadn't acted on impulse or momentary anger. This was planned, calculated, executed with surgical precision. How long had she been thinking about it? Weeks? Months? His apartment was exactly as he had left it on that fateful night. The suit he planned to wear to propose to Vanessa was still hanging on the bedroom chair. The ring was in the nightstand drawer, inside the small blue velvet box he had chosen with such care. Ryan picked up the box and opened it. The diamond sparkled under the bedroom light, perfect and utterly useless. 3 months' salary invested in a future that never existed. He closed the box with a dry snap and put it back in the drawer. The police had been in his hospital room twice. Detective Miller was a middle-aged man, grey-haired with tired eyes that had seen too much. He asked direct questions about Vanessa, about their relationship, about possible motives for what had happened. "Did you two have any recent fights?" Miller asked during the first visit. "No, everything was normal." "At least I thought it was financial problems. Did she have access to your accounts?" "No, our finances were completely separate. She had a good job, earned well." "Mutual enemies? Anyone who might want to harm both of you?" Ryan had thought a lot about this during the empty hours in the hospital. "I can't imagine who." Miller noted everything methodically. "And the child who warned you, did you know her from somewhere?" "I'd never seen her before in my life." "Interesting. A 5-year-old girl, alone on the street, who decided to enter an expensive restaurant to warn a stranger. Not something we see every day." "What happened to her?" Ryan asked. "She was taken to a temporary shelter. We're trying to locate relatives, but so far nothing. Can I visit her? I'd like to thank her in person." Miller hesitated. "I can't give specific information about minors, but I'll see what I can do." 2 days later, Miller called with news that deeply disturbed Ryan. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett, but the girl ran away from the shelter on the first night. We're still looking for her." This information bothered him more than he expected. The girl who had saved his life was lost somewhere in the city, alone, unprotected, uncared for. Vanessa, on the other hand, had simply vanished off the face of the earth. Her apartment was completely empty when the police checked, bank accounts closed, cell phone out of service. It was as if she had never existed, as if their 3 years together had been an elaborate illusion. "Professional" was how Miller described the disappearance. Someone helped her disappear, or she planned this a long time ago. People like that don't just vanish. Ryan tried to work on his first day home. He opened his laptop, checked accumulated emails, replied to overdue company messages, but his mind always returned to that night, to the metallic taste of the wine, to the feeling of betrayal that was still raw in his chest, to the desperate voice of a child screaming for him not to drink. He closed his laptop before noon. He couldn't concentrate on spreadsheets and reports when his entire life had been turned upside down. On the second day, Ryan gave up the pretense of normalcy. He left home with no specific destination, but his feet automatically led him to the city center, to the street where the Skyline Grill was located. The restaurant was operating normally. People came and went. Romantic couples dined by candlelight. Families celebrated birthdays and special occasions. Life went on as if nothing extraordinary had happened there. Ryan stood across the street for almost an hour, watching through the window. He could clearly see the table where he had been with Vanessa. An elderly couple sat there now, sharing a bottle of wine and laughing softly at some intimate joke. They looked happy, trusting each other, secure in their love, like he had been just a few days before. Ryan walked the streets around the restaurant, trying to process what had happened. He observed every corner, every building, every detail he might have missed before. When he returned home late in the afternoon, he realized he felt slightly better. The movement had helped organize his thoughts somehow. He decided he would return the next day. The third day brought a different determination. Ryan returned to the city center with a clearer purpose. This time, he didn't just observe the restaurant from afar. He walked the adjacent streets, explored alleys and passages he hadn't noticed before. He was trying to understand where exactly the girl might have been when she saw Vanessa put something in his drink. The restaurant window faced the main street, but there were several angles from which someone could observe the interior without being noticed. Ryan tried different positions, imagining where a child in a wheelchair could position herself to have a clear view of his table. That's when he noticed the side alley that had gone unnoticed on his other visits. It was narrow, almost hidden between the Skyline Grill and an office building. From there, someone would have a perfect view of the tables near the window, especially if they were looking through the glass. Ryan entered the alley slowly, observing every detail with renewed attention. The ground was uneven stone, dirty with accumulated trash from weeks past. There were dumpsters from various establishments, some torn bags with food scraps scattered on the ground. The smell was a mixture of spoiled food, dampness, and urban neglect. It was exactly the kind of place where someone desperate would search for something to eat. The walls were old bricks, stained by years of rain and neglect. There were some broken bottles scattered about, old waterlogged newspapers stuck to the ground, debris no one cared to clean up. Ryan was about to leave the alley when he saw her. A small figure sat on the ground, leaning against the brick wall at the back of the alley. Her wheelchair was beside her, one of its wheels visibly bent and the seat worn. The girl held a brown teddy bear close to her chest, as if it were the most precious thing in the world. She looked up when she realized someone was approaching. For a moment, there was only mutual recognition and silence. Ryan felt his heart race. It was her, the girl who had saved his life. Then she smiled, a small but genuine smile that lit up her dirty, tired face. "Are you okay?" The question was simple but loaded with meaning. Real concern, genuine care coming from someone who had no reason to care about him. Ryan felt something clench in his chest. "I am," he replied, crouching down to be at her eye level. "Thanks to you." The girl lowered her eyes as if she didn't know how to handle gratitude. Her hair was dirtier than on the night of the restaurant, her clothes crumpled and stained with dirt. "I didn't do anything special." "You saved my life," she shrugged, hugging the teddy bear tighter. "I saw she was doing something wrong. I couldn't let you drink it." Ryan observed the child more closely. There was a fresh scratch on her face. Her hands were dirty with earth, and he could see she was thinner than she should be. How many days had it been since she had a decent meal? "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Emily." "Emily. That's a beautiful name. Nice to officially meet you. I'm Ryan." She nodded, as if she already knew. She probably had heard when he said his name to the paramedics that night. "How long have you been on the streets, Emily?" The question made her shrink a little further against the cold wall. "For a while." "Don't you have a home, family?" Emily shook her head slowly, her eyes filling with a sadness that was too great for a 5-year-old to carry. "I did, with Grandma. But she passed away. I'm so sorry. When did that happen?" "A few months ago, maybe 4. I don't know how to count months right yet." Ryan sat down on the ground beside her, not caring about the dirt or the unpleasant smell. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" Emily hesitated for a long moment, stroking the worn fur of the teddy bear. Then she began to speak, her voice low and hesitant. "Grandma got sick, really sick. She coughed a lot and couldn't get out of bed. Sometimes she had a high fever and said things I didn't understand." She paused, organizing the difficult memories in her mind. "I tried to take care of her. I brought her water, made porridge when there was food in the house, but I didn't know how to make her better." Ryan felt his heart ache, a 5-year-old child trying to care for a seriously ill grandmother alone. One day she didn't wake up anymore. "I stayed with her for a few days, waiting, I thought if I took good care of her, she would get better. But she didn't wake up. Emily stopped again, her eyes welling up with tears that she bravely tried to hold back. I tried asking the neighbors for help, but they didn't want to know. They said it wasn't their problem, that I had to call someone. And did you call? I didn't know how. Grandma always said not to trust strangers. But after a few days, some people came anyway. Someone must have called. Emily hugged Bruno tighter against her chest. They took Grandma away. They said she had died and couldn't stay at home. And you? They wanted to take me too. They said it was for my own good, that they were going to put me in a new family. But Grandma always said that if anything happened to her, I had to run away. Emily looked at Ryan with big, haunted eyes. She said there were bad people who took children and did horrible things, that I couldn't trust anyone, only her. So when she died and those people came for me, I ran away. The story was told simply, without unnecessary drama, but each word cut Ryan's heart like a blade. A 5-year-old child, alone in the world, living on the streets because she was afraid to ask for help. How do you get food? I look in restaurant dumpsters. Sometimes people throw away good food. And there's a lady at the bakery on Elm Street who gives me stale bread when there's extra. And where do you sleep? Emily pointed in different directions. Depends on the day. Under the bridge when it's raining hard. In the park when it's warm and the security guards aren't around. Here in the alley when I want to be near restaurants. Ryan looked around the dirty, damp alley. A child sleeping there. A child with a disability. Alone and vulnerable. At the mercy of any ill-intentioned person. Emily, you know you saved me that night, right? She nodded shyly. How you saw what was happening and decided to warn me, even knowing you could get into trouble. I don't like it when people do bad things, she said simply. Grandma taught me that you always have to help when someone's in danger. Your grandma was right about that. You are very brave. Emily shook her head vigorously. No, I'm not. I'm afraid of a lot of things. I'm afraid of strangers, of loud noises, of being alone in the dark. Courage isn't about not being afraid, Emily. Courage is doing the right thing, even when you are afraid. She thought about it for a moment, biting her lower lip. Grandma said something similar. That she was afraid of a lot of things, but she always did what she thought was right for me. Ryan stood up and extended his hand to her. Come with me. Emily hesitated, looking at his outstretched hand with a mixture of hope and distrust. Where? First, let's get some decent food. Are you hungry? Emily's stomach audibly rumbled in response, making her blush with embarrassment. Always, she admitted softly. Then let's fix that. And after we'll talk about some important things. Emily looked at Bruno, as if asking the teddy bear for advice. Then she looked back at Ryan. You won't hand me over to those people. I won't hand you over to anyone without talking to you first, I promise. Emily studied his face for a long moment, looking for signs of deceit or ill intent. Apparently satisfied with what she saw, she took Ryan's hand. Okay. Ryan helped her stand up and then sit in her wheelchair, noticing how worn and unstable it was. One of the wheels was indeed bent, and the brakes didn't seem to work properly. Does this teddy bear have a name? He asked as they left the alley. Bruno. Grandma gave him to me when I was very little. She said he would always protect me. He's nice, and it looks like he's taking good care of you. He's kind of old and dirty, but I like him. He's my best friend. They left the alley together, Emily pushing the wheels of her chair with determination, Ryan walking beside her and adjusting his pace to match hers. Emily, he said when they reached the main street, I want to ask you an important question. You can ask. Ryan stopped and crouched in front of her again, looking directly into her eyes. You saved my life that night. You gave me a second chance when I didn't even know I needed one. Now I want to do something for you too. Emily watched him with curiosity mixed with caution. Do you trust me? Ryan asked. She thought for a long moment, studying his face with the seriousness of someone much older. I think so, she finally said. Then let me take care of you, at least for today. We can start slowly and see how things go. What do you think? Emily hugged Bruno to her chest. You won't send me away later? No, Emily, I won't. What if I do something wrong? What if I break something or talk too loud? Everyone does things wrong sometimes. That's part of being human. It doesn't mean we'll give up on each other. Emily looked at him for another moment, then smiled. This time, a bigger, more confident smile that completely transformed her face. Okay, Ryan smiled back, feeling something warm in his chest. For the first time since the night at the restaurant, he felt that something good could come out of this terrible situation. Then let's start. Do you like hamburgers? Emily's eyes lit up like stars. I've never had a real hamburger. I only saw them in commercials. Then today is definitely your lucky day. They walked down the street, Ryan beside Emily's chair, feeling that each step led them away from the painful past and towards something new, something that could become a family. Ryan had left home looking for answers about what had happened with Vanessa. Instead, he found something completely different. He found a brave girl who had chosen to do the right thing even when it was dangerous. He found a child who needed someone as much as he needed a purpose. He found, perhaps, a reason to start over. "You saved my life," he said, the words coming naturally from his heart. "Now let me take care of yours for a bit." Ryan pushed Emily's wheelchair through the downtown streets, looking for a suitable place for lunch. There were several restaurants in the area, but most seemed too formal for a child who had spent months living on the streets. He wanted something welcoming, simple, where she would feel at ease. "How about there?" he asked, pointing to a family diner with large windows and colorful decor. "Looks like a nice place." Emily looked in the indicated direction, hugging Bruno to her chest. "Can I really go in? I'm dirty." "Of course you can. And don't worry about that." The establishment had a relaxed atmosphere, with light wood tables and red upholstered chairs. Some families were quietly having lunch, children chatting animatedly with their parents. The smell of home-cooked food hung in the air. Ryan chose a table in the corner, away from the traffic. Emily looked around with wide eyes, as if she were in a completely new world. "I've never eaten in a place like this," she murmured. "What do you mean? With a real table, nice napkins, things like that?" Ryan felt his heart clench. "Where did you eat before with your grandma?" "In our kitchen at home, on a small table. But when food ran out, we ate wherever we could." The waitress approached with a warm smile. She was a middle-aged woman, with her hair in a bun and a floral apron. "Good afternoon. What can I get for you?" Ryan picked up the menu. "Emily, what would you like to eat?" Emily looked at the menu with a confused expression. There were many options, all with names and descriptions she didn't know. "I can't read very well yet," she confessed softly. "That's okay. Let me help." Ryan read some options aloud. "There's hamburger with fries, chicken sandwich, pasta with tomato sauce, chicken nuggets." Emily's eyes lit up. "Nuggets? I saw them on TV once." "Perfect. Nuggets with fries and juice, okay. And a side salad too." "I don't really like salad," Emily said hesitantly. "Just a little bit. It's good for your health." When the food arrived, Emily watched the plate for a few seconds before she started eating. She picked up the first nugget carefully, as if it was something precious that might disappear at any moment. Ryan noticed that she chewed slowly, savoring each bite. From time to time, she would stop and look around, as if checking if the food was still there. "Is it good?" he asked. "Very." Emily smiled, but continued eating with the same caution. "It's different from anything I've ever eaten." Ryan noticed she didn't waste anything. She ate all the nuggets, all the fries, and even tried a few salad leaves without complaining. When she finished, she looked at the empty plate with an almost melancholic expression. "It's gone," she said simply. "Do you want anything else? Dessert, maybe?" Emily shook her head quickly. "No need, I've already eaten too much." "Too much? You barely ate. Grandma always said you had to save room for the next meal. You never knew when you'd have food again." Ryan understood. Emily had developed survival habits. Even with abundant food in front of her, she still economized, still feared that it might run out later. "Emily, now you don't need to worry about that. You'll have food whenever you want." She looked at him with a mixture of hope and disbelief. "Promise." "I promise." After lunch, Ryan took her to the nearest shopping mall. Emily had never been in a place like that. Her eyes scanned the illuminated storefronts, people walking back and forth, the sounds and smells mingling in an urban symphony. "That's so big," she said, impressed. "It is, but let's take it slow. We need to buy some things for you." The first stop was a children's clothing store. Ryan had never bought clothes for a child and felt completely lost among the colorful racks and confusing sizes. "What size do you wear?" he asked Emily. "I don't know. Grandma always bought them." A saleswoman approached, noticing their hesitation. "Can I help you?" "We need clothes for her," Ryan explained. "Some basic pieces." The saleswoman looked at Emily professionally, quickly assessing her size. "She should wear a 5 or 6T. Shall we try some things on?" Emily was fascinated by the number of options. There were dresses of all colors, small jeans, blouses with cartoon characters she recognized from television. "Can I choose?" she asked shyly. "Of course. Choose whatever you like best." Emily spent several minutes observing each item. Finally, she chose 3 simple but pretty outfits: jeans with colorful blouses, a light blue dress, and some undergarments. Ryan added cute pajamas with teddy bear prints, which made Emily smile as she thought of Bruno. In the shoe section, Emily tried on sneakers for the first time in her life. She had only worn old, worn-out shoes that had belonged to her grandmother. "How do they feel?" Ryan asked. Emily took a few experimental steps, still sitting in her chair. "They're so soft. They feel like clouds on my feet." They chose 2 pairs, pink sneakers for everyday wear and a more durable pair for playing. The next stop was the backpack and accessories section. Emily chose a small, pink backpack with purple accents. Ryan added hygiene items: a child's toothbrush, strawberry-flavored toothpaste, mild shampoo, liquid soap. "And now," Ryan said, "let's choose something special." They went to the toy section. Emily had never seen so many toys together. There were dolls of all kinds, games, puzzles, colorful books. "You can choose a doll," Ryan said. Emily slowly walked through the section, observing each option. Some dolls were very elaborate, with long hair and elegant dresses. Others were simpler but still beautiful. Finally, she stopped in front of a doll with brown hair and a simple dress, who held a small teddy bear. "This one," she said decisively. "Why this one?" "She has a teddy bear too. That way she'll understand, Bruno." Ryan smiled. Even when choosing something for herself, Emily thought of not leaving Bruno out. At the checkout, while Ryan paid for the purchases, Emily watched all the bags pile up. There were many: clothes, shoes, hygiene products, the new doll, more things than she had owned in her entire life. "Is it all mine?" she asked when they left the store. "All yours." Emily held the handles of some bags, even though Ryan carried most of them. She clutched the bags to herself as if they were priceless treasures. "I've never had so many things," she murmured. "They're yours. No one will take them from you." On the way to the apartment, Emily didn't let go of the bags. Even when Ryan offered to carry everything, she insisted on holding at least a few. "They're mine," she explained. "Joyce want to carry them." Ryan understood. For Emily, those bags represented more than just clothes and toys. They represented security, belonging, the promise that she had a place in the world. When they arrived at the apartment, Ryan realized he hadn't planned where Emily would sleep. His apartment had 2 bedrooms, but the second one was used as an office, full of documents and work equipment. "Let's see what we can do," he said, looking around. Emily followed him, observing each room with curiosity. The apartment was modern and well organized, very different from the simple house where she had lived with her grandmother. "It's big," she commented. "You think so?" Grandma's house was very small. It only had 2 rooms and a tiny kitchen. Ryan opened the door to the second bedroom. There was a large desk, computer, shelves full of books and papers, but there was also a sofa where he sometimes rested when he worked late. "We can turn this room into yours," he said. "What do you think?" Emily entered the room and looked around. "Can I really stay here?" "Of course, we'll get everything ready for you." Ryan began to move some furniture, creating space. He cleared documents from the desk, organized books on the shelves, freed up as much area as possible. Meanwhile, Emily opened her bags and began to sort her new things. She carefully folded her clothes, organized her hygiene products, placed the new doll next to Bruno. "She needs a name," Emily said, holding the doll. "What name do you want to give her?" Emily thought for a moment. "Luna. Because she has moon-colored hair. Luna is a beautiful name." Ryan went to his bedroom and brought clean sheets, extra pillows, and a soft blanket. He made up the sofa as a temporary bed, ensuring it was comfortable. He searched his cupboards and found a small lamp he no longer used. He placed it on the table next to the sofa, creating a soft, inviting light. "There," he said, observing the result. "Your room." Emily looked around, amazed. There was a space just for her, with her things organized, a soft bed, her own light. It was simple, but it was hers. "It's perfect," she said, her voice full of emotion. Night fell as they organized the room. Ryan prepared a simple dinner, pasta with tomato sauce and cheese, something Emily could easily eat. During dinner, Emily told him about some places where she had slept on the streets, under awnings, on park benches, in dark alleys. Ryan listened with a heavy heart, imagining such a small child facing all those difficulties alone. "But now it's over," he said. "You won't sleep on the street ever again." "Promise?" "I promise." After dinner, Ryan helped Emily get ready for bed. She took a warm bath, put on one of her new pajamas, and brushed her teeth with the colorful toothbrush they had bought. When she lay down on the improvised bed, she held Bruno with one arm and Luna with the other. "They'll get along," she said, referring to the two teddy bears. "I'm sure they will." Ryan adjusted the blanket, checked if she was comfortable, turned on the bedside lamp, and turned off the main bedroom light. "Ryan," Emily said in the dark. "Yes?" "It's been a long time since anyone told me good night." The phrase cut Ryan's heart. A 5-year-old child who had gone months without anyone to wish her good night, without anyone to worry if she was safe and warm. He approached the bed and knelt beside it. "Good night, Emily," he said softly. "You're home now." Emily smiled in the dark, clutching Bruno and Luna to her. "Good night, Ryan." "Thank you for everything." Ryan left the room, leaving the door ajar, in case she needed anything during the night. In the hallway, he paused for a moment to process what had happened. In just a few hours, his life had completely changed. He had left home that morning looking for answers about Vanessa. Instead, he found Emily, a brave girl who needed a home as much as he needed a purpose. He looked at the ajar door of the room where Emily slept. For the first time in days, he felt he was doing something right, something that truly mattered. For the first time since the night at the restaurant, Ryan went to sleep with a peaceful heart. Ryan woke up earlier than usual, around 6 in the morning. The apartment was silent, but there was something different in the air. A new presence, a responsibility he hadn't had since living alone. Emily was sleeping in the next room, and for the first time in weeks, he had a concrete reason to get out of bed. He walked through the kitchen, trying not to make noise, thinking about what to prepare for breakfast. His refrigerator was typical of a bachelor. Some leftovers, eggs, milk, fruits. He'd bought more out of obligation than a real desire to eat. But now he had Emily to feed. He decided to make pancakes. He'd seen the recipe online a few times. It seemed simple enough. He mixed flour, eggs, milk, and a pinch of sugar, trying to remember the correct proportions. The batter turned out a little thick, but it would do. While the first pancake browned on the griddle, Ryan cut fresh fruit, strawberries, bananas, some grapes. He squeezed oranges to make fresh juice. He wanted Emily's first morning in his home to be special. "It's good morning," the soft voice came from the kitchen doorway. Emily was standing there, still in her pajamas, clutching Bruno to her chest. Her hair was messy from sleep, but she looked rested. "Good morning, Emily. Did you sleep well?" "Very well. The bed is soft." She observed the kitchen, the smell of pancakes in the air. "Are you cooking?" "Trying to." "I hope you like pancakes." Emily approached the table, where Ryan had placed the plates and glasses. "I've never had a real pancake, only saw them on TV." "Then today is a day to try new things." Ryan served the still warm pancakes, drizzled honey over them, and placed the fruit on the side. The orange juice was fresh, and he had prepared milk in case she wanted it. Emily climbed onto the chair and watched the plate with admiration. It looks like movie food. You can eat? It's warm. She cut a small piece of pancake and tasted it. Her eyes immediately lit up. It's sweet and soft. Did you like it? Very much. Emily ate with more enthusiasm than the day before, but still carefully. Grandma tried to make pancakes sometimes, but they never turned out like this. Ryan sat on the other side of the table with his own plate. Tell me more about yourself, Emily. What do you like? Emily thought as she chewed. I like to draw. Grandma always saved paper for me. Sometimes I drew on the wall when I didn't have paper. What kind of things do you draw? Houses. I always draw houses. Big houses, with gardens, with many windows. She paused, as if remembering something sad. Grandma used to say we'd live in a house like that someday. Ryan felt his heart clench. And what else do you like? Rain. I like when it rains because the sound is pretty, and the street smells nice. And what don't you like? Emily made a face. Plain milk. It's too white and tastes like nothing, and loud noises like trucks and people yelling. Ryan offered milk to go with the pancakes, but Emily shook her head quickly. Just the juice, please. No problem. They ate in comfortable silence. Emily tried all the fruits, commenting on each one. The strawberries were sweet. The grapes were too small. The bananas were perfect to mix with the pancake. Ryan, she said after a while, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you doing this? Taking care of me. The question caught Ryan off guard. He stopped eating and looked at Emily, trying to find the right words. Because you saved me, and because I think everyone deserves to have someone who cares. But you didn't even know me. Sometimes the best things happen with people we don't know. Emily nodded, as if she understood the logic perfectly. After breakfast, while Emily played in the living room with Luna and Bruno, Ryan took the opportunity to observe her more closely. That's when he noticed the condition of her wheelchair. The wheels were unevenly worn, one of them clearly bent. The seat was torn in some places, and the brakes didn't work properly. The frame made noise with every movement, as if it was about to break. Ryan approached discreetly. Emily, how long have you had this chair? Grandma got it when I was very little. About 3 years, I think. Does it bother you? Emily shrugged. Sometimes a wheel gets stuck and I have to shake it loose. But it's fine. Ryan decided at that moment that Emily needed a new chair. He didn't say anything to her, but he was already mentally planning a visit to a medical supply store. Emily, I need to go out for a bit this morning. Will you be okay here? There are cartoons on TV and I'll leave some paper for you to draw. Will you come back? The question came with a hint of insecurity. Of course I will. I'm just going to take care of some things and I'll be right back. Can I come with you? Ryan hesitated. He wanted the new chair to be a surprise. Tice, not today, but I promise next time you can come with me. Emily agreed, but Ryan noticed that she watched him from the window until he disappeared from sight. The medical supply store was on the other side of town. Ryan explained the situation to the salesperson, a 5-year-old girl who needed a quality pediatric wheelchair. We have a few models, the salesperson said, showing different options. This one here is highly recommended for children. It has adjustable height, non-slip wheels, secure brakes. Ryan tested the chair, checking every detail. It was modern, comfortable, and seemed much safer than the old one. I'll take this one. Do you need any accessories? Special cushion, back support. Everything necessary to make her comfortable. When Ryan returned home 2 hours later, Emily was in the living room drawing on sheets of paper he had left. She had created several drawings, houses with flowering gardens, trees with branches that looked like hugs, and a small figure in a chair next to a larger figure. What did you draw? He asked. Us, Emily said simply. You and me. Ryan smiled, touched by the simplicity of the gesture. It's beautiful. It was then that he brought the new chair from the garage. Emily had her back to him, concentrated on a new drawing, when she heard the sound of the wheels. She turned and froze. The chair was light blue, with white wheels and silver accents. It looked new, modern, completely different from the old, worn chair she was used to. Is Is it for me? She asked, her voice almost a whisper. It's yours. Emily dropped her pencil and stared at the chair for a long moment. Then she looked at Ryan, then at the chair again. I'm why? Because your old one was broken and because you deserve good things. Emily slowly moved from her old chair to the new one. She tested the brakes, spun the wheels, adjusted the position. Everything worked perfectly. Then, without saying a word, she opened her arms and hugged Ryan with a strength he didn't expect from such a small child. It was a long, silent hug, filled with gratitude that words couldn't express. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. You're welcome, Emily. They stayed like that for several minutes, Emily clutching Ryan's neck, him feeling the weight of responsibility and the affection that was growing between them. In the days that followed, Emily and Ryan established a natural and comfortable routine. Emily woke up early. Ryan prepared breakfast. They talked about dreams she had had, about plans for the day, about small things that gained importance when shared. During the day, while Ryan worked from home, Emily drew. She had discovered that she could attach her drawings to the refrigerator with magnets, and soon the entire kitchen was decorated with her creations. Colorful houses, giant trees, smiling people, fantastic animals. Can I draw on the wall? She asked one day. On the wall? Just a little. I promise it'll be pretty. Ryan looked at the white, lifeless walls of the apartment. How about we start with one wall in your room? Emily's eyes lit up. Can I really? You can. She started with small flowers around the bed. Then she added butterflies, clouds, a smiling sun in the upper corner. In a few days, the room had transformed into an enchanted garden. At night, Ryan read stories to Emily. He had bought several children's books, from classic fairy tales to modern stories about friendship and adventure. Emily snuggled into bed with Bruno and Luna, listening carefully to every word. Sometimes she asked questions about the characters. Other times she just listened in silence, her eyes sparkling with imagination. Ryan, she said one night, can you make up a story? Make one up. A story about us. About a man who finds a little girl. Ryan thought for a moment. Once upon a time, there was a man who lived alone in a big, silent house. He had everything he needed, but he felt like something was missing. What was missing? He didn't know. Until one day he met a very brave little girl who saw things adults couldn't see. And then what? Then they discovered that what was missing in each of their lives was the other's company. Emily smiled. I like that story. Me too. Weeks passed quickly. Emily adapted to life in the apartment as if she had always lived there. She learned to use simple appliances, organized her drawings in folders Ryan had bought, and helped prepare simple meals. More importantly, she started talking more. She told him about strange dreams, about things she remembered from life with her grandmother, about plans she had for when she grew up. I want to be an artist, she said one day, while drawing a colorful castle. And I want to live in a house with a huge garden. I'm sure you will achieve that. Ryan also changed. His days gained purpose and structure. He woke up thinking about Emily's breakfast, went to sleep checking if she was covered and safe. Work remained important, but it was no longer the only thing in his life. One day, his friend Mark came to visit him. They had been college classmates and kept in regular contact, meeting for dinner once a month. Mark observed the drawings on the refrigerator, the organized toys in the living room, the completely different atmosphere of the apartment. Ryan, man, what happened here? What do you mean? Your place turned into a kindergarten, Ryan laughed. More or less. Emily was in her room, drawing, but Ryan could hear the soft whirring of her wheelchair as she moved. Is that the girl who saved you? Mark asked. It is, and now she lives here. She does. Mark sat on the couch trying to process the information. Ryan, you barely know this kid. You don't know anything about her family, about the legal situation. I know she had nowhere to go, and I know she needed someone. But what about you? Your life, your plans? Ryan looked towards Emily's room, where he could hear her quietly talking to Luna and Bruno. Mark, he said after a moment, I spent years thinking I knew what I wanted in life. Work, money, relationships, marriage. I had it all planned. And now I understand I was living an empty life. Emily showed me what truly matters. Mark frowned. How so? Ryan stood up and walked to the window. I thought I was saving a child, but it's me who's being saved. Saved from what? From a meaningless life, from waking up every day without a real reason to get out of bed. Emily gave me something I didn't even know I needed. What? A purpose. Someone who needs me not out of self-interest, but out of genuine love. Someone who sees me for who I really am and still wants to be around. Mark was silent for a moment. What if social services find out? What if some relative shows up? We'll deal with it when it happens. For now, she's safe, fed, happy. That's what matters. And Vanessa? And everything that happened? Ryan thought of his ex-fiancée who had tried to poison him. The pain and anger had subsided over time, replaced by a strange sense of gratitude. If Vanessa hadn't done what she did, I never would have found Emily. In a twisted way, she gave me the greatest gift of my life. Mark shook his head, impressed. I've changed, man. For the better. Definitely for the better. I've never seen you so at peace. That night, after Mark left and Emily was asleep, Ryan sat on the apartment balcony, thinking about their conversation. It was true. He had changed profoundly since Emily came into his life. Before, his days were predictable and empty. Work, gym, dinner alone, television, sleep, lonely weekends, superficial relationships, a constant feeling that something was missing. Now, each day brought small discoveries. A new drawing by Emily on the refrigerator, an unexpected question during breakfast, a made-up story at bedtime. Simple moments that filled his life with meaning. Ryan went into the apartment and glanced into Emily's room. She was sleeping soundly. Bruno and Luna snuggled beside her. The bedside lamp cast a soft glow on the walls, decorated with her drawings. For the first time in a long time, Ryan felt complete. He felt at home. He felt saved. Ryan watched Emily draw at the kitchen table, concentrating on creating another one of her colorful houses. She had been living with him for 3 weeks, and their routine had become natural and comforting. Breakfast together, stories at night, drawings scattered throughout the house. But there was something that still bothered him, an unresolved issue that weighed on his mind every night before bed. Vanessa. Why had she done that? What had transformed him, in her eyes, into someone who deserved to die? The question haunted him not out of anger or a desire for revenge, but from a deep need to understand, to close that dark chapter of his life once and for all. Emily, he said, setting down his coffee cup, I need to travel tomorrow. Just for one day. She looked up from her drawing, a green pencil still in her hand. Where to? To resolve something important from the past. Can you stay with Mrs. Evans downstairs? She said she'd love to get to know you better. Emily nodded, but Ryan immediately noticed the worry that flashed in her eyes. Will you come back? I always come back, Emily, I promise. What if something bad happens? Ryan knelt beside her chair. So nothing bad will happen. It's just a conversation I need to have. A conversation that will help me find peace. The next morning, Ryan called the private investigator he had hired a week earlier. Robert Davis was an experienced man, a former police officer, recommended by a lawyer Ryan knew from the business world. I found her, Davis said over the phone, his voice deep and professional. Vanessa Santos is living in Portland, about a 3-hour drive from here, small apartment downtown, works part-time at a coffee shop, very low-key life. Are you absolutely sure it's her? Without a shadow of a doubt. I sent the photos you asked for by email. I can accompany you if you want. No, thank you. This is something I need to do alone. Ryan hung up and opened the email with the photographs. It was definitely Vanessa, but an almost unrecognizable version of the elegant woman he had known. Darker hair, cut short, simple, unstylish clothes, an almost deliberately ordinary appearance, as if she were trying to hide from the world. What's the exact address? Ryan typed. 247 Oak Street, apartment 3B. Ryan, are you sure you want to do this? This woman tried to kill you. It could be dangerous. I'm sure, and it's not dangerous. I just need answers. The drive to Portland seemed longer than it actually was. Ryan drove in silence, watching the landscape gradually change from suburban to rural and then urban again. Throughout the journey, he mentally rehearsed what he would say, how he would react, what questions were truly important. He didn't want confrontation or unnecessary drama. He didn't want to yell or accuse. He just wanted to understand what had transformed 3 years of seemingly happy relationship into an attempted murder. Oak Street was in a modest neighborhood in Portland, with old but well-maintained buildings, mature trees on the sidewalks, and a quiet working-class atmosphere. Number 247 was a 3-story building, with faded paint but a solid structure. The kind of place where people live simple, discreet lives. Ryan parked across the street and observed the building for a few minutes. He didn't know if Vanessa was home, if she would recognize him immediately, if she would try to flee out the back door as she had at the restaurant. He took a deep breath, crossed the street and entered the building. The hallway smelled of cleaning products and was dimly lit. He went up to the 3rd floor, his steps echoing on the wooden stairs. He stopped in front of apartment 3B and stood there for almost a minute, listening to the normal sounds of a residential building. Televisions on muffled conversations, the distant clatter of someone cooking. Finally, he knocked on the door. Slow footsteps approached from the other side. A hesitant and clearly nervous voice asked, "Who is it?" "Ryan." The silence that followed lasted almost a full minute. Ryan could imagine Vanessa on the other side of the door, paralyzed, deciding whether to flee or face the situation. Then, the sound of several locks being undone. The door opened just a few inches, held by a security chain. Vanessa appeared in the crack, and her eyes widened when she saw him. Even expecting this moment, she seemed genuinely shocked. "How did you find me? Does it really matter now?" She stood still, clearly conflicted between slamming the door in his face and facing a conversation she probably knew was inevitable. "What do you want?" "To talk. 5 minutes. Then I'll leave and you'll never see me again. I'll scream, I'll call the police. I'm not going to hurt you, Vanessa. You know that. I just want to understand why you did what you did." She watched him through the crack for a long moment, studying his expression, looking for signs of anger or violence. Apparently satisfied with what she saw, she closed the door, removed the chain, and opened it completely. The apartment was small and Spartan. Basic, cheap furniture, undecorated walls, a sense of temporariness, as if she were ready to pack up and disappear again at any moment. Vanessa was visibly different from the woman he had known, thinner, dull hair, simple and clearly worn clothes, but her eyes were the same, still beautiful, still expressive, but now filled with something Ryan couldn't quite identify. Guilt, fear, regret. "Sit," she said, pointing to an old wooden chair. Ryan sat down, watching her settle onto the small sofa across the room. They remained in silence for a few seconds, both clearly uncomfortable, but knowing the conversation was necessary. "How are you?" she finally asked, her voice almost a whisper. "Alive." "No thanks to you." Vanessa lowered her eyes, her hands clasped in her lap. "I know." "Why, Vanessa? 3 years together. 3 years that felt real, happy. I was going to propose to you that night. Why did you try to kill me?" She took a long time to answer, as if she was organizing thoughts and memories she had carried for months, maybe years. "Do you remember Martin Harris?" she asked, finally looking up. Ryan frowned. The name was vaguely familiar, like something he had heard a long time ago. "Martin Harris, the financial manager I fired about 4 years ago." "My father." The revelation hit Ryan like a punch to the gut. He felt the blood drain from his face. He had no idea of the family connection. "Your father, Vanessa. Why did you never tell me?" "Martin Harris was my father. You fired him without notice, without adequate explanation, after 15 years of loyal service to your company." Ryan tried to remember the specific details of the case. Martin Harris had been caught diverting funds from client accounts. They weren't huge amounts, but it was a serious crime that, by company policy, required immediate dismissal and possible criminal prosecution. "Vanessa, your father was stealing from the company. There was no choice." "Stealing?" she laughed. but it was a bitter, joyless laugh. He was borrowing. He was going to return every penny as soon as he could sort things out. Borrowing, Vanessa. He forged documents, created phantom accounts, moved money without authorization. My mother was dying of cancer. Her voice rose for the first time. The company's health plan didn't cover the experimental treatment she needed. He was desperate, trying to save the life of the woman he had loved for 25 years. Ryan felt the weight of the revelation like a stone in his chest. I didn't know about your mother. Nobody told me about his family situation. Of course you didn't. You didn't even ask. You didn't want to hear explanations. You simply fired him, said you would sue him for embezzlement, and completely destroyed his reputation in the market. Vanessa stood up and walked to the small window that overlooked the street. After you fired him and spread the word about what he had done, no one else wanted to hire him. 15 years of impeccable career ended overnight. He became a pariah in the financial market. And then what happened? Then he started to get sick. Deep depression, high blood pressure, heart problems caused by stress. My mother died 6 months later because we couldn't afford the treatment that might have saved her. My father died a year later. A massive heart attack at 52. Ryan remained silent, processing all the information, trying to reconcile the version of events he knew with this new perspective. My entire family crumbled because of your decisions, Vanessa continued, still with her back to him. We lost our house, our cars, our life savings. I had to drop out of college in my final year, work any job I could find to pay the hospital bills and then the funerals. Why did you never tell me this? Why didn't you come to me to explain the situation? Vanessa turned to him, and Ryan saw that her eyes were shining with contained tears and repressed anger. Come to you. You, the man who destroyed my family. I spent 2 whole years planning how to get revenge on you, how to make you feel the same pain we felt. And the solution was to pretend to love me. At first, yes, I researched your life, your habits, your tastes. I carefully planned how to enter your life. I entered your life to take from you exactly what you took from us. Money, security, future, peace. But 3 years, Vanessa. 3 whole years pretending to love someone you hated. She sat back down, visibly calmer now, as if telling the story had lifted a burden. It wasn't all pretense, Ryan. I genuinely developed feelings for you. Real feelings. That made everything much more complicated and painful. Then why did you decide to kill me? Because that night at the restaurant, when you were about to propose to me, I realized I couldn't keep pretending to be someone I wasn't. And I also realized I could never truly forgive you for what you did to my family. Ryan looked at her, at the woman he had genuinely loved, who had betrayed his trust in the cruelest and most dangerous way possible. Vanessa, your father committed a crime. I understand his desperation, the impossible situation, but he broke the law and violated the company's trust. And you didn't have an ounce of compassion. You didn't try to understand, didn't give a second chance, didn't offer an alternative. And you thought the solution was to poison me in a restaurant. She covered her face with her hands, finally letting the tears flow. I know it was terrible. I know I turned into a criminal, into a person my parents would be ashamed to call their daughter. But I was blind with rage and with pain, with a desire for revenge. Ryan slowly stood up. He had gotten the answers he sought. They weren't the answers he expected or wanted, but they were enough for him to move on. Vanessa, she raised her red eyes. I won't report you to the police. She looked at him with genuine surprise. Why? After everything I did. Because it won't bring your parents back. Because my life has moved on in a way I never imagined. And because... Ryan hesitated, organizing his thoughts. Because if you hadn't done what you did that night, I never would have found Emily. Emily? The girl who saved me at the restaurant. She changed my life in a way you never could, even when you were genuinely trying to love me. Ryan walked towards the door. But I sincerely hope I never see you in my life again. Ryan, wait. He stopped at the door but didn't turn around. I'm so sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but I really am sorry. I'm also sorry about your family, Vanessa. I'm sorry things ended this way. Ryan left the apartment and closed the door behind him. He walked down the stairs slowly, processing the entire conversation, trying to organize his feelings. In the car, he sat for a few minutes before starting the engine. The anger he expected to feel wasn't there. Neither was the feeling of victory or justice. Instead, there was a profound sense of relief, as if a weight he had carried for months had finally been lifted from his shoulders. He wasn't leaving Portland because he had won a confrontation or gotten revenge. He was leaving free from a haunting past, free to fully live the future he was building with Emily. During the drive back, Ryan thought of the girl who was probably at that moment drawing at the kitchen table or talking to Luna and Bruno. He thought of the simple, genuine, and loving life they had built together in just a few weeks. Vanessa had tried to destroy his life, but inadvertently had given him the greatest blessing he could imagine. Ryan drove home, to Emily, to the future. Not because he had one, but because he had closed a chapter that weighed him down. Ryan arrived home late in the afternoon, mentally exhausted from the trip and the confrontation with Vanessa. The conversation had brought the answers he sought, but it had also lifted a weight he hadn't even known he was carrying. Now, climbing the building stairs, he felt truly free for the first time in months. He opened the apartment door and was greeted by the familiar sound of Emily talking softly. She was in the living room, sitting on the floor next to the coffee table, with Luna and Bruno arranged in front of her as if it were a small lesson. And then the princess found the lost castle, she told the dolls, but she discovered the castle was sad because no one lived in it. Ryan paused at the living room entrance, observing the scene. Emily was completely absorbed in her story, moving the dolls carefully, creating different voices for each character. The golden light of late afternoon streamed through the window, illuminating her hair and creating an almost magical atmosphere. For the first time since he had found her in that alley, Ryan truly stopped to absorb the moment. Here was a child who had spent months living on the streets, alone and afraid, and now she was safe, fed, loved. Playing quietly in a house that had become her home. A strange and profound feeling came over Ryan. It was different from anything he had felt before. It wasn't exactly happiness, nor relief, nor gratitude. It was something deeper, more complete. It was peace. "Ryan!" Emily saw him standing at the entrance and her eyes lit up. "You're back. How was your trip?" "It was good. I resolved what I needed to resolve." Emily put the dolls down and quickly wheeled herself over to him. "Did anything bad happen?" "No, nothing bad. In fact, it was good. It helped me understand some important things." They had dinner together, Emily recounting her day with Mrs. Evans. After dinner, Ryan helped Emily get ready for bed. But this time, instead of going straight to his own room, Ryan sat on the edge of Emily's bed. "Can I talk to you about something important?" he asked. Emily snuggled deeper into the pillows. Bruno and Luna nestled beside her. "Of course, is it serious?" "It's something very important. Perhaps the most important thing I've ever talked about with anyone." Emily watched him with full attention, sensing the seriousness in his tone of voice. "Emily," Ryan began, choosing his words carefully, "since you came here, my life has completely changed. Not just because I have someone to care for, but because you made me feel things I had never felt before." "What kind of things?" "Real love. Purpose. The feeling that I'm doing something that truly matters." Ryan paused, organizing his thoughts. "I always wanted to start a family, Emily. I always wanted to have children, but it never worked out. It never happened the right way." Emily listened in silence, her eyes wide and attentive. "And then you came into my life in the most unexpected way possible. A brave little girl who saved me when I didn't even know I needed saving." "You saved me too," Emily said softly. "I know. And that's why I want to ask you a very important question." Ryan took a deep breath, feeling his heart quicken. "Emily, would you like to be my daughter?" For a moment, silence filled the room. Emily looked at Ryan with an expression that shifted from surprise to understanding, and then to pure, intense joy. She didn't hesitate, didn't think, didn't ask any more questions. She simply threw the covers aside and rushed into Ryan's arms, hugging him with a strength that seemed impossible for such a small child. "It's what I want most," she said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. I was tired of living alone. I wanted to have a family again, but I thought it would never happen. Ryan hugged her back, feeling unexpected tears. So you want to? You want to be my daughter? Emily pulled back slightly to look directly into his eyes. Can I call you Daddy? You can call me whatever you want. Daddy, she said, testing the word. Daddy Ryan. And you will be Emily Bennett. Emily Bennett, she repeated, smiling. I like the sound of that. The next morning, Ryan called a lawyer specializing in family law. Dr. Patricia Jenkins was known for handling complex adoption cases. It's a delicate case, Dr. Jenkins said during the consultation, but not impossible. The child's well-being is always the priority, and from what I see, she is clearly happy and well cared for. Emily was sitting beside Ryan. Dr. Jenkins, how long will it take for me to truly be Ryan's daughter? A few weeks, maybe a few months. It depends on how quickly we can gather all the paperwork. And can I help with anything? You'll need to talk to a few people, a social worker, maybe a psychologist. They'll want to make sure you're happy and safe. Emily looked at Ryan. Can I tell them you're the best daddy in the world? The process began the following week. Emily participated in everything with enthusiasm, answering the professionals' questions with honesty and joy. Ryan takes good care of me, she told the social worker. He makes pancakes for breakfast, reads stories at night, and bought me a new chair. And how do you feel living with him? Safe, happy, at home. And you want him to be your legal father? I already think of him as my dad. The papers will just make it official. At home, while they waited for the legal proceedings, Ryan and Emily celebrated in their own way. Ryan decided to make special pancakes, heart-shaped with extra strawberry topping. They're celebration pancakes, he explained while cooking. Celebration of what? Of family. Of you. Of us. Emily watched him cook, then had an idea. Can I make something special too? Of course. What do you want to make? A poster for my room, to show that now I have a real family. After the celebratory breakfast, Emily locked herself in her room with paper, colored pencils, and total concentration. Ryan could hear her working, quietly talking to herself as she drew. 2 hours later, she called him. Done. Want to see? Ryan entered the room and found Emily holding a colorful poster. In the center, in large, carefully drawn letters, it read, Now I'm a real daughter. Below it was a drawing of 2 figures, one tall and one small in a wheelchair, holding hands in front of a house with a blooming garden. It's beautiful, Emily. Can I hang it on the wall? Of course. It's your room, your home. They hung the poster on the wall next to the bed, right where Emily could see it every morning when she woke up and every night before she went to sleep. The months that followed were filled with adaptation and growth. The adoption process moved slowly, with paperwork, interviews, and regular visits. Emily faced everything with courage, always eager to answer yes. She wanted Ryan to be her father forever. Their routine settled naturally. Ryan adjusted his work to be more present, and Emily developed rapidly, gaining weight, learning new words, and creating increasingly elaborate drawings. One sunny Saturday morning, Ryan decided it was time for a special adventure. Emily, how about we go to the park today? Her eyes lit up. The big park with the playground and the huge trees. That's the one. We can have a picnic. Emily clapped her hands with joy. I'm going to bring Luna and Bruno so they can see the park too. Ryan prepared sandwiches, fruit and juice in a basket, while Emily carefully arranged her dolls. The municipal park was a 15-minute drive away. It was a large green space, with ancient trees, paved trails, accessible playground equipment, and plenty of open space. It's gigantic, Emily exclaimed when they got out of the car, and it's all ours to explore. Ryan pushed her chair along the paved paths, stopping at different points so she could get a better look. Emily moved joyfully in her new chair, pointing at everything. Colorful birds, flowers she didn't know, families picnicking, children playing. Look at those ducks, she shouted, pointing to a small pond. Can I get closer? Of course. They approached the edge of the pond. Emily watched the ducks with fascination, darting her eyes from one animal to another, quietly talking to Luna and Bruno about everything she saw. "That's the daddy duck," she explained to the dolls, "and that's the mommy duck, and those little ones are the ducklings." They found a perfect spot for the picnic, a grassy area under a large tree with natural shade and a clear view of the playground. Ryan spread a blanket on the ground and arranged the food. Emily ate with appetite, but couldn't stop looking around. Everything was new and fascinating. Other families were picnicking nearby, children ran and played, teenagers threw a frisbee. "Is this what families do?" she asked. "What do you mean?" "These things, picnics, going to the park, staying together. It's one of the things families do, yes. I like it. I want to do this always." After the picnic, Ryan took her to the playground. The equipment was adapted for children with different needs, including some options Emily could use even in her wheelchair. She had fun on a special seesaw, on an adapted swing, and especially watching other children play. Ryan stayed close but gave her space to explore. At one point, Ryan walked a few feet away to throw the picnic trash into a bin. His back was turned, organizing the basket, when he heard a voice that made his heart stop. "Daddy, wait for me." Ryan froze. Slowly, he turned around. Emily was a few feet away, moving quickly in her wheelchair towards him. Her eyes shone with joy, a huge smile on her face. She had called him Daddy. Naturally, without thinking, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, Ryan felt something stir in his chest. The smile that started restrained quickly turned into visible emotion. Tears he hadn't expected blurred his vision. He opened his arms. Emily reached him with the speed her chair allowed and threw herself into his arms. Ryan hugged her tightly, feeling that something fundamental had been completed at that moment. "You called me Daddy," he said, his voice choked. "That's what you are," Emily replied simply. "My daddy." They stood there, embracing in the middle of the park. Two people who had met under the most improbable circumstances and who now formed something new and perfect. Family. Not a family created by blood or marriage or social convention. A family created by choice, by love, by a mutual need for belonging. A family forged at the moment a brave little girl shouted to a stranger not to drink, and solidified the moment that same man realized that saving that child was in fact saving himself. Ryan looked at Emily, still in his arms, and saw not just the girl who had saved his life, but his daughter, his family, his future. Emily looked at him and saw not just the man who had taken her off the streets, but her father, her safety, her home, family. At last, if this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.